rolling, Chief.
Speed! Action!
The real Wild West only lasted a couple of decades. But for the last 100 years, the movies have told and retold these stories, turning them into enduring American legends. The great cowboy stars who breathed life into the portrayals of the trailblazers, the lawmen, and the desperados have given the screen many of its most timeless moments.
My advice to you is start carrying your gun. That's good advice.
Man ought to do what he thinks is best.
Ain't you supposed to be good with a gun? Good enough?
Listen, I don't mean to be a sore loser, but when it's done, if I'm dead, kill him. Love to.
The infamous outlaws like Billy the Kid, Frank and Jesse James, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid live on as movie legends, along with stalwart heroes like Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill Hickok, and Wyatt Earp.
We don't allow anybody to wear guns in Dodge City. Hadn't you noticed?
Who's we?
I'm the marshal, Wyatt Earp.
I'm calling the hand that's in your hat.
Take a look, Mr. Jayhawker.
The name is Hickok.
What? Bill Hickok?
Mr. Hickok to you.
The name's William Barclay Masterson, United States Marshal.
Pat Masterson?
Yes.
What's your name, sister?
Imelda Cobb.
And your son?
Jesse Woodson James.
Jesse Woodson. Jesse James?
We like your kind around here. I hope we'll be seeing a lot of you.
It's a real genuine compliment coming from Belle Starr.
Belle Starr.
Lou, this is Calamity Jane. Everybody knows me. Born and bred out yonder. A dead shot. Holy mackerel. It is. Hey, Joe! Buffalo Bill's out here.
Boys, Bonnie's joining us. He's better known as Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid?
Well, you're the notorious Ringo Kid.
My friends just call me Ringo.
What do you got against this young fella anyway? Only that he's the singing kid.
You must be the dancing kid.
That's the name, friend.
And who are you? The name, sir, is Johnny Guitar.
That's no name.
Anybody care to change it?
What's your name, dude?
Eastwood. Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
In the Old West and in the Westerns, a man's best friend was his horse. Sometimes the horses became almost as famous as their riders. Tom Mix had Tony as his co-star. Roy Rogers had Trigger, the so-called smartest horse in the movies. Hopalong Cassidy galloped along on Topper. Ken Maynard rode Tarzan, the Wonder Horse. Buck Jones was less likely to kiss his leading lady than he was his horse Silver. And Gene Autry's favorite mount was Champion.
For centuries, Native Americans were a proud, free people living in harmony with the land they loved. That's rarely what we saw in Westerns. It's hard to say who treated the Indians worse, the U.S. cavalry or the Hollywood movie makers.
Coachy, read that smoke first.
Apache make fire.
Apache make fire. Brilliant, ain't it? Mine like a razor.
That Apache smoke talk bring you out to meet us? What do you make of it? Likely the natives is having a barbecue in the mountains.
Hickok, my friend, speak with straight tongue. Hickok, white man friend, speak with forked tongue.
Big Thunder of White Brothers Iron Horse, even now, frighten buffalo from prairie.
About these Indians. Seems like they hardly ever attack at night.
Why?
Well, they figure if they're killed in the dark, the Great Spirit can't find their souls and whip them up to heaven someday.
Probably got more Indians surrounding us right now than Custer had to fight at Bighorn.
Indians don't attack at night. Everybody knows that.
I was told Indians wouldn't fight at night. I was told that, too. I guess nobody told the Indians.
When the Westerns were at the peak of their popularity, it seemed that nearly every performer in Hollywood wanted to be in one. The results were quite interesting.
You for me, ma'am. I like 'em big.
Well, now they don't come too big for me either, bud.
That's good. Got a voice to match your figure. I'm buying you the first drink, sweetie pie.
I got a feeling you and I are going to have a lot of fun, big girl.
Well, you never can tell.
Grease up your guns, outlaw, and cinch 'em on tight. There'll be guns a-blazing, singing with light.
Why, that's Singing Sandy.
Like you'll be drinking your
Most
drink
notorious gunman since Billy the Kid.
the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, we're going to present for your approval a novelty picture with an all-midget cast called The Terror of Tiny Town.
Go ahead. You got it all your own way.
I'll give you an even break. That's more than you did for me.
Peter, Pete! Drop that cannon. Put your hands up.
Drop that gun and get your hands up.
That gun, put your hands up. All right, Pete, drop your gun and get your hands up.
Any resemblance between these two characters and living persons is purely accidental.
Head him off at the pass. He went that way. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Those lines may have started out as a fresh idea in a writer's fertile imagination, but years of Hollywood westerns turned them into cliches. Get my drift, partner?
You know I'm a rootin', tootin', shootin' cowhand, and my trigger finger's just itching to get even with them varmints.
Stopperin', jumpin', Jehoshaphat.
Why, you tin horn.
That's the word I was trying to think of. You're a tin horn.
I think you're the prettiest thing I ever saw when you're angry.
Why, you're even pretty when you're mad.
Like I said, Hallie, you're awful pretty when you get mad.
Stage for Abilene in the morning. I want you to be on it.
Yeah. The Marshal of Abilene sent me here.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us. And I'm giving you 24 hours to get out.
This country ain't big enough to hold the two of us. I'm giving you the sundown to get out of town.
This town ain't big enough for you and me. I'll give you till sundown to get out. That's the usual time, ain't it?
Where's Calloway?
He went that away.
We'll head him off at the pass!
Head them off at the pass. I hate that cliche.
Would you believe that Hollywood has produced over 20,000 westerns? Obviously, some were better than others, and then there were a handful that were truly classics. You're about to see the best of the West. In a town where yesterday's landmarks are today's parking lots, the Hollywood community has made an extraordinary effort to preserve this old barn. Just across from the Hollywood Bowl, it's now called the Hollywood Studio Museum. That's because the town's movie industry began here. This was where the first important feature-length Hollywood movie was shot, and it just happened to be a Western. Cecil B. DeMille's The Squaw Man, made a long time ago in 1913.
DeMille was an ambitious East Coast stage director looking for locations in sunny Los Angeles, where he would direct his very first film. On the outskirts of the city, he found Hollywood, a quiet, conservative farming town. When he rented this barn, probably not even the great DeMille foresaw the incredible impact the Squaw Man would have on the future of the movies and Hollywood. DeMille made full use of the barn. With partitions, he converted horse stalls into sets to shoot most of the interior scenes. The exterior of the barn became the outside of a frontier saloon. The Squaw Man was a spectacular hit in his time, and the film's success put a stamp of legitimacy on the place where it was produced. Hollywood soon became a popular location for all kinds of films, especially Westerns. But we're getting a little ahead of our story. A decade before the Squaw Man, a camera crew from the Edison Company visited Buffalo Bill's famed Wild West show somewhere in upstate New York. We don't know the month, we don't know the city, but there, of all places, 100 years ago, the Western was born. In his rip-roaring extravaganza, William F. Buffalo Bill Cody takes the Wild West to the curious East. For the first time, eager audiences can see for themselves what real cowboys and real Indians look like. You have to realize that as this camera is rolling, the frontier is still open, sort of. Frank James is selling tickets for a visit to the house where his brother Jesse was slain. Wyatt Earp is running gambling casinos in San Diego. And the great chief of the Apaches, Geronimo, is on a reservation reduced to peddling pictures of himself to tourists. Yet Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are still robbing trains. So it's no wonder that the instant popularity of this film causes a stampede of imitators. They photograph crude images of the far west in East Coast studios. It doesn't seem to matter that the scenery is painted on flats and the costumes come from someone's old trunk. If it's about the West, it sells tickets. These primitive flickers prove that contrived violence might shock audiences, but it keeps them coming back for more. For moviegoers, action alone is worth the price of admission. This film, however, is the beginning of a new art form. Made in 1903 by Edwin S. Porter for the Edison Company, The Great Train Robbery is the first motion picture to tell a narrative story. For a premium, patrons could see it in color, each frame tinted by hand. Filmed on location in the wilds of New Jersey, The Great Train Robbery is such a sensation that audiences around the world would flock to see it for the next 20 years. What the Western needs now is a cowboy hero. In 1907, Bronco Billy Anderson rides onto the scene. Big and beefy, he seems an unlikely candidate for stardom. But in a little over 10 years, Anderson makes nearly 500 Westerns. They have lots of action, but little bloodshed. Courageous and strong, Bronco Billy sets the pattern for the early cowboy stars who would soon follow him. Later, William S. Hart introduces the hero as the strong, silent type. A stage actor from New York, Hart single-handedly rescues the Western from mediocrity. Directing his own films, he brings a stark realism to the screen. The audiences are enthralled. Some call the flamboyant Tom Mix the greatest Western hero of them all. His co-star is Tony, an exceptionally gifted horse he bought for $12.50. By adding humor and clever stunts to his movies, Tom Mix reinvents the Western. A consummate showman, Mix annoys his rivals. He dresses like a Christmas tree, they complain. But throughout the roaring 20s, Tony and Tom Mix are hailed as the most popular horse and hero in the world. The coming of sound to the movies gives the Westerns an exciting sense of reality. In this scene from In Old Arizona, the first outdoor sound Western, the bulky microphone is concealed behind a saddle where it can pick up sound effects and the voice of Warner Baxter.
Hey, yo, coyote, yo. Tell him you meet the Cisco Kid.
Pardon, ma'am. Did I welcome a stranger to these parts with a shot of liquor?
Si, senor.
Look out for this hombre, ma'am. He don't mean nothing he says, and he's flat broke.
Oh, senor.
With sound pictures came new faces and new voices. Immediate stardom would happen to a young Gary Cooper in The Virginian, co-starring Richard Arlen and Walter Houston.
I don't know what the argument is between these two cowhands, ma'am, but whatever it is, I can settle it fair and square.
We're getting along just fine. Not that it's any of your business.
Well, who's talking to you?
I'm talking to you, Tramper.
When I want to know anything from you, I'll tell you, you long-legged son of a...
If you want to call me that, smile.
With a gun against my belly, I always smile.
Early sound Westerns become a training ground for aspiring actors. The Painted Desert is a good example. William Boyd, who would later become Hopalong Cassidy, is the hero. The villain is Clark Gable in his first talking role.
All right, Holdup. Here it is. I did everything. Wagons, mine, and all. And I'd do it again if you or any other man come between me and what I want.
Sound pictures quickly become more successful than most in Hollywood had imagined. And now the popularity of low-budget B-Westerns motivates some major studios to gamble on expensive outdoor epics.
Ready? Aim.
Audiences have never experienced anything like Cimarron. Irene Dunn and Richard Dick star in the sprawling saga of frontier life, including a stunning recreation of the Oklahoma land rush. Cimarron becomes the first Western to win an Academy Award for Best Picture.
This sounds interesting.
I'm back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend.
In the mid-1930s, an up-and-coming radio star named Gene Autry comes to the screen, and a new kind of Western hero is born, the singing cowboy. Autry is the embodiment of the clean-living hero both on screen and off. He never drinks or smokes and earns the admiration of countless little saddle pals with his cowboy coat of the West. Composing many of his early songs, his records sell in the millions. An astute businessman, Gene Autry will eventually become the richest cowboy in the world.
Whoopie-tie, yeah, I go my way, back in the saddle again.
Here, Gene Autry meets his future rival, a bit player named Roy Rogers.
You all right, Buck? Oh, my right arm's sprained a little, my ribs stove in. How's your throat? Throat's all right, what?
Let's hear you sing.
Sing?
Yeah, sing. Yodelee-hoo. That's all right.
Give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence.
During World War II, his studio promotes Roy Rogers as the king of the cowboys. Roy's appeal is unique in that he's the hero who actually gets the girl. He and his wife, Dale Evans, warble their way through 25 films together. But that's nothing compared to the nearly 100 times he appears with one of the movie's most popular stars, his horse, Trigger.
Come on, Trigger. Let's be on our way.
Roy Rogers and Gene Autry will share their throne with another cowboy hero. In the late 1940s, William Boyd has the foresight to acquire the rights to all his old Hopalong Cassidy movies and presents them on a wildly popular new medium, television. Hoppy will become more popular on the small tube than he had ever been on the big screen. His success, however, means the end of the trail for the B-Western.
Hold it, you're under arrest.
All across America, young fans are tuning in to watch a new generation of sagebrush heroes. By 1959, Westerns dominate prime-time TV. Amazing as it seems, each week viewers can choose from 24 Western series. To recapture lost audiences, the movie Westerns have to be bigger and better than ever. Throbbing to the music of Elmer Bernstein, the West depicted in The Magnificent Seven takes on a new majesty and moral purpose. It stars Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, James Coburn, Eli Wallach, Horse Buckholes, and tells a story that fills the screen with high-energy action. The West Was Won in Cinerama continues the tradition of the epic Western on a grand scale. "70 years after Buffalo Bill began it all, audiences are electrified by the most spectacular train holdup ever filmed. The all-star cast includes George Peppard, Paul Newman and Robert Redford, the jumping-off place in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is the Animas River Gorge near Durango, Colorado. It's a dangerous situation for Butch and Sundance, but only in the film. To create the illusion of a 70-foot leap, stunt coordinators construct a platform just below the lip of the canyon. The rest is acting and careful planning by director George Roy Hill. Redford and Newman jump in Colorado, but their fall will be completed in California on a lake at the Fox Ranch near Malibu. Stunt doubles Mickey Gilbert and Howard Curtis are hoisted high above the water and then, on cue, fly through the air with the greatest of ease. When it was all put together, it looked like this. As the turbulent 1960s draw to a close, Westerns like The Wild Bunch reverse a time-honored tradition. The bad guys become something akin to heroes. With William Holden, Robert Ryan, and Ernest Borgnine, Here's to stunt men and stunt women. God bless them all. Doubling for John Wayne in Stagecoach, Yakima Canutt risks his life in one of the most dangerous stunts ever filmed. In a remake of Cimarron, director Vincent Minnelli enlists the finest stuntmen and the best trained stunt horses he can find. In Maverick, Jodie Foster and I are aboard a runaway stage. Mel Gibson is at the reins for a stunt designed and performed by Mick Rogers and directed by Richard Donner.
Help.
All right, cut it, print it. Thank you.
That's it.
Very good.
Complete without four things. Beautiful women, good guys, bad guys, and sooner or later, gunplay.
When you hear a strange sound, drop to the ground.
A sound? Like what?
Like that.
Hollywood consistently and profitably turned gunslingers into fantasy heroes. In real life, these outlaws were mostly a wretched lot. Ornery, nasty, ill-tempered, drinking and carousing no good, and all too often, violent, cold-blooded killers. This is what they lived by. It was called a six-shooter, a lead pusher, a smoke wagon, a shooting iron, or my favorite, a hog leg. The gunslingers of the West wandered from town to town, carrying a price on their heads and terror in their holsters, preying on honest citizens. So even law-abiding folks had to learn to use one of these.
All right, gunslinger.
An old pro like John Wayne could teach anyone to shoot, even a greenhorn like James Stewart and the man who shot Liberty Valance.
Balance it light in your hand. And don't jerk the trigger. Squeeze.
Oh, no, you don't have to coach me.
I'll show you how easy it is. Pilgrim! I hate tricks, Pilgrim. But that's what you're up against with Valance. He's almost as fast as I am.
I don't like tricks myself, so that makes us even.
Here, let's fix this.
To young Brandon DeWilde in Shane, nothing was more impressive than a shooting lesson taught by Alan Ladd.
Now you try it. Real fast. Straight. Oh, that's it.
Gosh, is that the way real gunfighters do?
What I'm telling you is as good a way as any. And better than most.
Let me see you shoot, James.
What do you want me to shoot at?
The little right rock over there, see? Gosh almighty, that is good.
Go ahead, try it.
In Red River, John Ireland and Montgomery Clift enjoy a shooting match to test each other's skills.
Go on, keep it going.
Nice, awful nice. You know, there are only two things more beautiful than a good gun. Swiss watch or a woman from anywhere. You ever had a good Swiss watch?
And the sheepman, Glenn Ford, uses some fancy gunplay to keep the townfolk off his back.
Want to put that glass on my hand upside down? Put one of those chips on top of that glass. I'll give these gentlemen a drink, put it on my bill.
Disputes in a saloon were usually settled by the quickest draw. In Maverick, Mel Gibson impresses Jodie Foster with his unorthodox way in outsmarting his younger, faster opponent.
Look, I don't see what's so great about it. Hey, whoa, son, there. Just slow down there. Where's the fire, son? I mean, I'm a card player. You know, I play cards, and where you, on the other hand, are a gunfighter. And an exceptional one at that, from what I hear. So if I decided to go up against you, I mean, what chance would I have had? Answer? 0. Absolutely none whatsoever. Want to see it again? Damn thing won't stay in the holster.
Early on, filmmakers found ways to portray the showdown minus the gunplay. Robert Mitchum uses intimidation in Blood on the Moon.
All right, Reardon, anytime you want. Make up your mind. I won't wait.
John Wayne tries another approach in Tall in the Saddle.
Touch that gun, I'll kill you. Did you want to see me?
I saw you strike that poor man.
Yes, ma'am. Just as hard as I could.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This climactic duel from the big country allows the tenderfoot, played by Gregory Peck, to defend the honor of Gene Simmons. His opponent, Chuck Connors, and Burl Ives is the father.
Hey! I warned you, you dirty load. All right.
Now it's my shot.
Yeah, I like those.
Inevitably, there comes a time when violence can no longer be avoided. Lana Turner gets a lesson in self-defense from Clark Gable in Honky Tonk.
Hey, Johnson. They're running a brace game in your joint. They took me for my poke.
I'm glad to listen to your squawk, mister.
I'm through squawking. Draw, mister.
I got nothing against you, and 10-1, you got nothing against me that can't be ironed out.
I'm giving you every chance. Draw.
Oh, wait a minute. I got my wife here.
Candy, you all right?
That's the first time I couldn't talk my way out.
Oh, Candy, and I wanted you to leave your gun home.
That's all right, honey. I did leave the dog at home.
There's nothing more dramatic in a Western than a showdown. Here, hero-worshipping Brandon DeWilde watches Alan Ladd confront the villain Jack Palance in Shane. Many consider this scene, directed by George Stevens, the most memorable gunfight in movie history.
So you're Jack Wilson.
What's that mean to you, Shane?
I've heard about you.
What have you heard, Shane?
I've heard that you're a low-down Yankee liar.
Prove it.
Timeless classic, Shane realizes his way of life is coming to an end. But in the world of motion pictures, the day of the gunfighter is never over.
This is a young actor named James Coburn in his very first film, a Randolph Scott Western. I only had about 12 lines of that movie, as I recall.
Sheriff Pat Garrett.
Now here I am nearly 15 years later with Chris Christopherson in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. It's amazing what that much time on the range will do to you, isn't it? One of the most recognizable figures of the Old West was the lawman. He may have been marshal, sheriff, deputy, or Texas Ranger. But it was his job to break up brawls, arrest cattle rustlers, track down murderers, and prevent the local folk from taking the law into their own hands. Now, these lightning-quick, sure-shooting lawmen became legends in their own time. And early on, the movies chose to portray their exploits in exciting, but none too accurate recreations of frontier justice. Towards the end of the 19th century, the patchwork system of justice in the West could not keep up with the explosive influx of settlers. Towns everywhere, with their concentrations of money and liquor, were magnets for notorious roving gangs. The history of these lawless times inspired countless Western movies.
In the name of the law, Sheriff, I'm taking this down.
What law?
The law of the bullet. You think that does not make the law?
No, never.
Then we disagree.
We do?
And you force me to prove my argument.
Go ahead.
You know, things are going to happen in this county. Guns and shooting are going out. Law and order's on the march. The good people want to live together as good, peaceful citizens. And when they get together, there isn't a man fast enough on the door or tough enough to stand against them.
On the screen, there was no hero more idolized or idealized than the town sheriff. He was the man behind the gun on the side of justice. In Dodge City, Errol Flynn's sheriff makes headlines, but still has to put up with townspeople who aren't yet accustomed to the strong arm of the law.
You killed him? If you don't turn him over to us now, we'll come get him our own way tonight.
Listen, man. You fellas put me in this office to enforce the law, and I'm going to enforce it. That means a fair trial for any and all prisoners. There's going to be no mob rule around this town as long as I'm sheriff.
When it came to movie heroics, no one could top the dashing Errol Flynn.
Hold on, boy.
Here he risks his life to break up a lynch mob led by the villainous Bruce Cabot.
I've no wish to spoil your fun, Surratt. But would you be kind enough to tell those men to let him go?
Sure, we'll let him go just as quick as he gets through dancing around up there.
You heard what I said, I think. Tell him to let him go.
All right. String him up, boys.
Put him up! Reaching high, boys, or you know what happens to Surratt. Get his gun. We may never be this close again, Surratt. Start walking.
Errol Flynn was such a charismatic actor that audiences weren't bothered by his Australian accent. He would make many westerns, but none as popular as Dodge City. Now, some towns were elevated to celebrity status by their peace officers, like Abilene, Wild Bill Hickok, Dodge City, Bat Masterson. But perhaps the most famous was Tombstone, a wide-open town of lawlessness, until the arrival of Wyatt Earp and his brothers. Now, their stories have been told many, many times.
Who are you?
My name's Earp.
Wyatt Earp?
You know me?
Certainly have heard of you.
Well, we sure want to thank you, Mr.
Earp. Wyatt Earp. What? You're not by any chance the marshal from Dodge City? Ex-marshal.
Our brave Marshal. Why, he won't even protect a lady from an insult. Wyatt Earp.
You sure got a great way with women, Wyatt.
The fascination with this story has lasted 6 decades. The most recent Wyatt Earp was Kevin Costner.
My name is Wyatt Earp. It all ends now.
You're headed for war with Ike Clanton and the men he rides with.
How's that?
Nothing good can come from you interfering with the business of the Clantons and O'Clarys. With a little cooperation, a little live and let live.
I think you've forgotten something. The Clantons and their friends are rustlers.
What do you care if they're running Mexican cattle up from the border? They don't try to tell you how to run your faro games.
You didn't let me finish. They're murderers and thieves. They rob the stagecoaches my brothers and I are paid to protect.
Everyone can make out.
I'm sick of hearing your lies. You go back to your friends. You tell them if they want to make a fight with the Earps, they know where to find us.
I got your friend Doc Holliday, and you're next. We'll wait for you at the OK Corral.
Many films have taken moviegoers down the dusty street to the OK Corral. One of the best known is John Ford's classic My Darling Clementine, starring Henry Fonda and Walter Brennan.
Let's talk a while. You go right ahead and talk. I got a warrant here for you and your son. Will you come on right in here, Marshal, and serve your warrant?
Another classic, Gunfight at the OK Corral, starred Burt Lancaster as Wyatt Earp and Kirk Douglas as Doc Holliday. Like many movies, history was sacrificed in favor of showmanship. Because of the need for a blazing finale, the gunfight would be on screen for a full 6 minutes. That's 12 times longer than the real thing. And the actual tiny OK Corral was greatly expanded to meet the filmmaker's needs. Nevertheless, it's one of the more memorable versions of the often told story. And the Earp phenomenon keeps growing. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, and Bill Paxton headed for their meeting with the Clanton gang in Tombstone, one of the most elaborate and exciting recreations of the infamous showdown.
Oh, not what I want.
Oh, my God.
One of the most acclaimed and most influential westerns was High Noon, starring Gary Cooper as the sheriff of a town whose citizens, at a time of crisis, desert him one by one. But, having sworn to uphold law and order, he stubbornly stands by his code of honor. His new bride is played by Grace Kelly.
Will, we were married just a few minutes ago. We've got our whole lives ahead of us. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
You know, I've only got an hour and I've got lots to do. Stay at the hotel until it's over.
No, I won't be here when it's over. You're asking me to wait an hour to find out if I'm going to be a wife or a widow. I say it's too long to wait, I won't do it.
Amy.
I mean it. If you won't go with me now, I'll be on that train when it leaves here.
I've got to stay.
Gary Cooper's understated, superb portrayal as Sheriff Will Kane would win him an Oscar as Best Actor. High Noon, written by Carl Foreman, produced by Stanley Kramer, and directed by Fred Zinnemann, was hailed as Hollywood's first adult Western. In telling the story of the courageous but seemingly doomed lawman, the film redefined the character of the Western hero, giving him new meaning and dignity. Despite impossible odds, the sheriff is near victory when he must face one final obstacle.
All right, James, come on out. Come out, your friend here will get it the way Pierce did.
I'll come out. Let her go.
As soon as you walk through that door. Come on, I'll hold my fire.
During his long and distinguished career, Gary Cooper had played the hero in many films, but mostly he would be remembered for his moving performance in High Noon. Later he would admit, it was a part that took everything I had, and I gave it everything I had. It was said of Gary Cooper that he had the ability to express for the world and his countrymen all that was best loved and most admired in the American spirit.
I'm not turning over my father's gun or shield till his murder's avenged.
Why don't you know enough to let a man do a man's job, and you women stick to your kitchen chores?
Well, if there's a man who can do a better job than I'll be glad to stick to my kitchen chores.
Well, ma'am, so long as you want to know who is the best man, I guess it's up to me to show you.
In most of the westerns of the past, all the best roles were played by men. But even though they were called cowboy movies, little girls loved them too. When growing up in England, I used to imagine jumping onto a horse and galloping after the bad guy. Of course, we girls didn't have as many role models as the men. The few colorful characterizations by leading ladies were inspired by real-life, free-spirited frontier women, like Calamity Jane and Belle Starr. But they were known to exaggerate their actual exploits. But in their wildest imaginations, they couldn't possibly have conceived how Hollywood would present them.
Case in point, Martha Jane Canary, better known as Calamity Jane. This crusty old mule skinner scandalized decent 19th century society by swearing, drinking, and wearing men's clothing. Sounds to me like she was just 150 years ahead of her time. And here's how the movies depicted her, in the person of the lovely Jean Arthur.
You slab-sided, bird-toting rat. You brung that honky-tonk mopsy?
Shut up, Calamity.
Tip your hat when you speak to a lady.
I will when I speak to a lady.
And here's Myra Shirley, better known as the bandit queen Belle Starr. She may have enjoyed velvet gowns and plumed hats, but she had the disposition of a bee-stung sidewinder. One can only imagine why Hollywood picked so many of its most glamorous actresses to portray this homely horse thief.
See those leaves over there? Let's see how close you can come to one of them.
You mean you want me to try and put a hole through it? Like this? Or shall I just cut it off? Like this?
Well, I guess you'll catch on.
When I was little, I used to wish I was a boy, so I could be like you, the way you could ride and shoot. Most women can't shoot. They don't teach girls. It's supposed to be a man's talent. But I learned. I had to. Anytime you feel like being a man again, you can find me at the old Palmer place.
Mighty pretty shooting, Bill.
Don't want her. Shoot at me.
Watch this. Good thing you got us men around in case there's any shooting to get done.
This Ohio-born sharpshooter inspired the first major Western motion picture to feature a female lead. Annie Oakley is her name.
Did I hear someone call my name?
Colonel Cody, meet Miss Annie Oakley.
Well, dog my cat.
If there was one actress who personified the strong, brave, and independent woman of the West, it was Brooklyn-born Barbara Stanwyck. Through 15 Western movies and hundreds of hours of TV horse operas, she specialized in playing the part of a woman who could do anything a man could do, and possibly do it better. As the cattle queen of Montana, she gets to save the life of the future president of the United States.
Jonesy, you're quite a gal.
Although you'd never know from watching most Westerns, women played an important role in the winning and settling of the West. Hollywood showed us how they defied danger, hardship, and heartbreak to forge a new home on the frontier. It was the women who transformed the wilderness into a civilization.
We know their stories mostly from the diaries of the brave and rugged pioneer women who struggled across the plains under constant threat of starvation, disease, and Indian attack. Once they settled on their land, they would stand their ground.
I'm beginning to believe that's just the way you think about a wife. Both of you. Someone to be bought or sold. Someone to cook for you and do your chores and flatter your manhood every now and then. Manhood. Just look at you. I'm going back to the stockade.
What I'm saying is, if you want to go, I won't stop you. But the minute you start to whine or make a nuisance, I don't care where we are, I'm dumping you flat.
I'm 26, and I'm single and a school teacher, and that's the bottom of the pit. And the only excitement I've known is here with me now. So I'll go with you, and I won't whine. And I'll sew your socks, and I'll stitch you when you're wounded. And I'll do anything you ask of me, except one thing. I won't watch you die. I'll miss that scene if you don't mind.
Tomorrow, my husband leaves. And I cannot help but feel that my last happy days are ended.
Living under the constant specter of sudden death required an inner strength, the kind personified by Olivia de Havilland as the wife of Errol Flynn's General George Armstrong Custer, preparing to leave for the eventual Battle of Little Bighorn.
Walking through life with you, ma'am, has been a very...
If women suffered at the hands of filmmakers, consider the plight of the Indians. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of America's Indian wars was Custer's last stand at Little Bighorn in South Dakota. Not only were 225 cavalrymen massacred, but it steeled public opinion against the Indian cause. The most famous of the many film versions of Little Bighorn was They Died with Their Boots On. This mammoth spectacle had a cast of thousands, costs of millions, but could only muster up 16 real Indians for the battle scene. The rest of the so-called Redskins were Filipino or Caucasian. needed convenient villains. And so history's noble Indian braves were reduced to Hollywood's ultimate bad guys.
Nothing's wrong. Those red devils.
They're real friendly like the Indians.
The only friendly Indians are dead Indians, I say.
They ought to shoot those darn redskins while they got the chance.
Yeah, sooner they get rid of them, the safer this country will be for us Americans.
You bet your life.
You seem to know a great deal about the Indians.
Sure I do. Not long ago, they threw a little powwow in my honor. Firewater, courtesy of Peso.
But that isn't legal, is it?
Oh, no. That's a federal offense for a white man. But that night, I was pure Apache. Chihuahua!
You come alone?
Sure. Here's your whiskey. Help yourself.
My braves like whiskey.
The depiction of Native Americans in Broken Arrow in 1950 marked a movie milestone. Not only was it one of the first films to show a sympathetic view of the Apaches, but it also told their side of the story. James Stewart plays an ex-army officer assigned to negotiate with the dreaded Cochise, portrayed by Jeff Chandler as a dignified and reasonable man.
I am the leader of my people. They do not betray me, and I do not betray them. We fight for our land against Americans who try to take it.
My people have done yours great wrong. I say this to you as I've said it to them.
Do you think because I'm an Indian, I'm a fool, you can trick me?
I would not have come here if I thought that. A fool sees only today. It is because I respect you as a leader of your people that I think of tomorrow.
What is it about tomorrow?
Is it not possible that your people and mine can someday live together like brothers?
Verdanke.
The traditional relationship between the Indian and the white man was changed forever after Dances with Wolves. Kevin Costner produced, directed, and starred as the soldier who befriends a band of Sioux and eventually becomes a member of their tribe. Graham Greene plays Costner's trusted friend.
Tona au kete kihe. Sloyaya ya chinyelo.
Huh?
Kola lila ota. Au kete la ota.
How many?
Like the stars. It seems every day ends with a miracle here. I'd never known a people so eager to laugh, so devoted to family, so dedicated to each other. And the only word that came to mind was harmony.
The Searchers, directed by John Ford, has been acclaimed as a masterpiece in the art of Western movie making. It's the story of a relentless quest to rescue a young girl abducted by the Apaches and to return her to her family. Towards the end of the film, in this poignant scene, Natalie Wood is finally welcomed into the arms of her uncle, played by John Wayne.
Let's go home, Debbie.
This cave in Bronson Canyon was and still is a filmmaker's favorite. It's been used more than any other natural location in all of Los Angeles. It is only 5 minutes from Hollywood and Vine. Of all the stars who appeared in Westerns, one stood out as a larger-than-life figure on screen and off. His name was Marion Michael Morrison. The world would come to know him as John Wayne. His friends called him Duke. I can't count the number of John Wayne Westerns I saw when I was a young buckaroo. The way he took care of the bad guys was enough to earn the respect of every kid and most of the grown-ups in the audience. There was also something else that Duke communicated to moviegoers that made them believe in him. Whatever the movie was, he invested a part of himself that the audience trusted. They seemed to sense certain qualities: loyalty, honesty, honor, decency. John Wayne's appeal is a monumental achievement in movie history. Wayne said about himself, "I don't really act, I react. And that's damn hard work." He added, "I always play John Wayne. I'm Wayne the cowboy, regardless of the role and how I'm dressed. All I can do is sell sincerity, and I've been selling the hell out of it ever since I started.
I mean to kill you in 1 minute, Ned. Or see you hanged in Fort Smith at Judge Parker's convenience. Which'll it be?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
John Wayne's Oscar-winning performance in True Grit has been a long time coming. Earlier, he had whispered to presenter Barbra Streisand 2 words: beginner's luck. Marion Michael Morrison is born in 1907 in Winterset, Iowa. But his life changes forever when at the age of 5, he and his family moved to Southern California. During summers off from his football scholarship at USC, Morrison begins working on movie sets, starting off as a prop man, stuntman, and wrangler. In 1928, he meets director John Ford, who casts him as an extra and later as a bit player. On Ford's recommendation, Morrison lands his first starring role in an early epic western, The Big Trail. The untrained 22-year-old, now known as John Wayne, tries his best.
I got some good news for you.
What?
I'm gonna be away for a while. I'm going scouting.
Wasn't that dangerous in the open country?
Lord, no. I love it. But I reckon I'm gonna be lonely this time. But I'll be thinking of you. Goodbye.
Unfortunately, The Big Trail is a big disaster, and Wayne, through no fault of his own, is condemned to an endless string of low-budget B movies for the next 10 long years.
Well, buddy, let's go see what all this ruckus is about.
Duke appears in a string of these horse operas, as many as 9 in a single year. He keeps getting work, but his career is going nowhere. He's married with 3 children to feed, and a terrible feeling that he'll be trapped forever in the kind of quickie westerns he describes as each one lousier than the last. But he hangs in there. His luck changes in 1938 when director John Ford gives his friend Duke a leading role in a major movie, Stagecoach. Co-starring Claire Trevor, it's the big break that John Wayne has been waiting for.
Your health.
Thank you, sir.
After 10 years and 70 movies, finally, John Wayne becomes a full-fledged star. At a time when westerns are out of fashion, Stagecoach is a surprise hit with its dynamic, large-scale action. The success of Stagecoach launches a whole new cycle of well-crafted, big-budget westerns. Today, this film is considered a milestone in movie history. Director John Ford, whom Wayne calls Coach or Pappy, will remain a close friend for life. They spend vacations together on fishing trips, occasionally joined by other stars in Ford's retinue, like Henry Fonda. Another member of the group is Ward Bond, who would appear in more Ford movies than any other actor. For Wayne, Ford becomes a mentor who would continually reinvigorate Duke's career and elevate him to new levels of critical acclaim.
Right back to you!
After World War II, Wayne teams up with Ford in a trilogy of nostalgic yet exciting movies about the U.S. cavalry. Each film brings further accolades to both men, but the most highly regarded is She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
Sir, a small token from the troop.
In the film, Wayne plays Captain Nathan Brittles, a dedicated cavalryman who is about to retire. Critics acclaim his performance, and Wayne will later say that this is his favorite role.
To Captain Brittles from C Troop. Lest we forget.
In 1956, Wayne and Ford joined forces again. The result is the memorable Western, The Searchers. As the bitter, Indian-hating Ethan Edwards, Wayne gives one of his strongest performances.
I found him! I found Lucy! They're camped about a half mile over.
What you saw was a buck wearing Lucy's dress. I found Lucy back in the canyon. Wrapped her in my coat. Buried her with my own hands. Thought it best to keep it from you.
Oh. Did they? What was she?
What do you want me to do? Draw you a picture? Spell it out? Don't ever ask me. As long as you live, don't ever ask me more.
John Wayne would spend an unprecedented 25 years in the box office top 10. John Ford would be hailed as the greatest director of westerns that Hollywood has ever known. The chemistry between these two unique talents would produce a body of work that may never be surpassed. After Ford's retirement, John Wayne would go on to star in a dozen more western films, embellishing the indelible image he had created for moviegoers around the...
I don't favor talking to vermin, but I'll talk to you just this once.
Mr. Chisholm, that sounds like a threat.
Wrong word. Fact.
Good morning, Daddy.
Daddy?
I am moved by your faith in someone you haven't seen since he was 16 years old. Daddy.
Well, son, since you haven't learned to respect your elders, it's time you learn to respect your betters. You can call me Father, you can call me Jacob, you can call me Jake, you can call me a dirty son of a bitch. But if you ever call me Daddy again, I'll finish this fight.
Someday.
In one of his final films, Rooster Cogburn, Katharine Hepburn gave us a perfect summation of the Wayne legend. The 22-year-old in The Big Trail would go on to star in over 150 films in an extraordinary career that would span 50 years. He would play other roles in other kinds of films, but it's the image of John Wayne, the man of the West, that will always come to mind. Honest, loyal, self-reliant, the embodiment of the American hero. The name of John Wayne has entered into our lexicon as a synonym for strength and patriotism. His life and his achievements were honored by a special congressional medal. It was engraved simply, John Wayne, American.
We're here at the Gene Autry Western Heritage Museum in Los Angeles. This magnificent 140-foot mural is dedicated to the pioneers who shaped the West and the Hollywood Westerns that reflected this epic story. It took all kinds of people to win the West. There were those who came for adventure and those who came for commerce. And there were even those who came because there was nowhere else for them to go. Hollywood has not forgotten the daring pioneers who risked everything for a chance at a better life. For the last century, movies have recreated the living, breathing images of the early West. The famous, the infamous, and those anonymous souls who are buried in obscure graves along the way. Their legacy has been written on this land and in the movies. For longer than living memory, buffalo had provided Native Americans with reliable and seemingly endless source of food, clothing, and shelter. Over 60 million buffalo roamed freely over the western landscape until hunters discovered what easy targets they were. This elaborate montage from the film Buffalo Bill is a shocking but realistically detailed reconstruction of what really happened in the West. Promoted by the railroads as a way to increase ticket sales, shooting parties soon left an incredible carnage along the right-of-way. For the Plains Indians, it was a disaster beyond comparison. By 1874, professionals and amateurs alike were killing buffalo at the rate of well over 1 million a year.
What's that contraption?
Buff bones. All that's left of 60 million spikes that once roamed the coast of Kansas.
My God.
By 1900, there were only 3,000 head of buffalo still alive within the nation's borders. All that remained of the once majestic herds were bleached bones and stunned disbelief, a reaction expressed by Charles Bronson in The White Buffalo. Where the vanished buffalo once roamed, longhorned steers found a home. Now cattle was king. Moving the huge herds to distant railheads became the stuff of legend. Red River, brilliantly directed by Howard Hawks, perpetuated the myth, but it was historically accurate. The film starred John Wayne and Montgomery Clift.
Take him to Missouri, Matt.
Of the cattle boom, drives like the one depicted here provided employment for more than 50,000 cowboys. Over the years, the movies have given them a heroic gloss, but for the lowly cowpokes, it was just a job. Most of them earned less than $1 a day. With a long trail behind them and money in their pockets, cowboys headed for the nearest watering hole. Well, that much is true. The rest is pure Hollywood. This stranger in town is James Cagney as the improbable Oklahoma Kid. Actors were quite versatile in those days. A gangster last week, a cowboy this week. The tough guy in the black hat is the equally improbable Humphrey Bogart.
Little fellow over there with the piano.
Say, do you know I don't want to play in your yard?
They don't want that tonight.
I'll play it.
Not tonight, brother.
Play it.
Oh, sure, that's one of my favorites.
Tell that little squid over by the piano I want to see him.
I don't want to play in your yard. I don't like you anymore. You'll be sorry when you see me sliding down our cellar door. You can't holler down our rain barrel. You can't climb our apple tree. Oh.
Barroom brawls are a Western staple. The biggest and best was, and still is, this one from Dodge City. Errol Flynn was the star of the movie. This was the most action-packed sequence in the film. But, because of the risk of injury, the studio bosses wouldn't let Flynn even near the set. As a result, actor-athlete Win Big Boy Wins got all the best close-ups. as a civilizing influence. Ann Sheridan makes a brief appearance.
On a $10 horse and a $40 saddle, and I'm going to punch and takes his cattle. Come the tie, yippee, come the tie, come the tie, yippee, yippee, yay.
The mayor says you might be staying here a while, maybe helping get a school started.
Yes, I'm the new school mom.
Well, that's mighty nice, ma'am.
These shirts are hard to come by.
What'd you hit me for?
'Cause I know you.
This is the shirt that John Wayne wore in Hondo. If these frontier costumes could talk, they'd tell us about a time when the Western was the most popular movie genre in the world. A time when the studios turned out at least 100 Westerns a year. But since the early 50s, fewer directors, stars, and more importantly, studios and producers were willing to risk their cold, hard cash filming Westerns. Rising costs, declining interest, and stiff competition from television had almost done what no shiftless outlaw could do to our cowboy heroes. But now, Westerns have been rediscovered. Young audiences are enjoying the exhilaration of wide-open spaces, blazing action, and daring stunts for the very first time up there on the big screen. Thanks to a new generation of creative talents, filmmakers are reevaluating this country's past with new and exciting perspectives. In 1982, when Kevin Costner first set out to produce, direct, and star in Dances with Wolves, the Western was considered box office poison. 8 years later, the finished film not only revived the Western epic, but also walked off with 7 Oscars. Dances with Wolves was the first Western to be voted Best Picture since Cimarron, way back in 1931. A newcomer to the Western, Sharon Stone sets out for revenge in The Quick and the Dead, co-starring Gene Hackman and Leonardo DiCaprio. Hollywood is breathing new life into the legend of Wild Bill Hickok. After being portrayed in over 40 films, the movie's latest Wild Bill is played by Jeff Bridges.
Howdy, Jane.
Howdy, Bill.
And Ellen Barkin as a whip-snapping Calamity Jane, Wild Bill.
I talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me.
During the lean years of the Western, there was one actor-director who stubbornly stuck with stories of the Old West. He's still putting on the boots and spurs and has become a legendary figure behind the camera as well as in front of it. Clint Eastwood. Clinton Eastwood Jr. was born in San Francisco in 1930. Developing no particular interests in school, he became a lumberjack in Oregon and later pursued various odd jobs. Following a stint in the Army, he ended up in Los Angeles, where on the advice of his friend David Jansen, he accepted a contract at Universal that paid $70 a week. At the time, Clint says, it seemed like $1 million to me. Among the many supporting roles during those early years was Eastwood's first appearance in a Western. Here is a youthful Clint in First Traveling Sales Lady with Carol Channing.
What's your name?
Jack Rice.
You're handsome. Do you like girls?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Well, I'm a girl.
Yeah, you sure are.
After meandering through 4 years of bit parts, Clint landed a lead role in a television series which became an ideal vehicle for his lanky good looks and natural athletic skills. Rawhide would run for 5 years and make Clint a top-rated Western hero on television.
Get 3 coffins ready.
During the summer of 1964, after Charles Bronson and James Coburn had turned down the part, director Sergio Leone hired Clint for an Italian-German co-production shooting in Spain. The salary was a paltry $15,000, but the character he played became a long-term investment. Audiences were ready for a Western anti-hero, and Clint's morally ambiguous gunslinger fit the bill.
See, I understand you men were just playing around. course, if you were to all apologize. I don't think it's nice, you laughing.
A Fistful of Dollars was a runaway hit with moviegoers round the world, introducing the phenomenon of the spaghetti western. But it took 3 years before it was shown in America. Even then, Hollywood didn't much care, until theater owners demanded more Clint Eastwood westerns.
My mistake. War coffins.
When Clint returned to American movies and hang 'em high, those who had criticized his Italian westerns admitted he had made a shrewd career move. Clint was on his way to becoming the biggest western star since Gary Cooper and John Wayne. In 1977, Clint starred in and directed his most ambitious movie to date, The Outlaw Josie Wales. This time he drew on a much larger canvas, dealing with the emotional dislocation and divisiveness in post-Civil War America. Critics noted that he also humanized his gunslinger character and endowed it with a new maturity. The Outlaw Josie Wales is now considered by many to be a masterpiece and one of the best westerns of all time.
I'm looking for Josie Wales.
You a bounty hunter?
Man's got to do something for a living these days.
Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
You beat William Money out of Missouri. Killed women and children.
That's right. Killed just about everything that walks or crawls at one time or another. And I'm here to kill you, little Bill.
Of all his westerns, Unforgiven is the darkest and most brooding. In this scene with James Woolvett, Clint played an aging gunfighter who comes out of retirement for one last showdown. In this portrayal, he gave the most thoughtful, moving performance of his career.
Well, you sure killed the hell out of that fella today.
It don't seem real.
It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have.
Well, I guess they had it coming.
We all have it coming, kid.
Clint finally collected his bounty for so many years in the saddle. Unforgiven won 4 Academy Awards for Best Direction, Best Editing, Best Supporting Actor Gene Hackman, and Best Picture of 1992. These Oscars capped a long career of outstanding achievements. Clint Eastwood helped put the Western back in movie theaters, where it always belonged.